Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well, having a great time, staying at home and staying safe. This is class 5 science lesson and we will try to talk about how thermal energy is transferred. So let's start and good luck everyone. Before we start with today's lesson, let's answer the question in section review, page 235, and we will start with the first one. So the question says, what is temperature? Temperature measures the average energy of motion in particles of matter. That's the answer. The second question says, if all the particles in a metal spoon start moving faster, how had the spoon's temperature change? Well, the spoons get hotter. The temperature increase. The third question says, what do we call the energy emitted by the sun? Well, it is solar energy. Well, the next question says, the water in 2 glasses has the same average energy of motion. 1 glass holds 250 milliliters, and 1 holds 4 milliliters. Which glass of water has more thermal energy? So to answer this question, you need to know what is the difference between kinetic energy and or average energy of motion and thermal energy. So the question says the 2 glasses has the same average energy of motion. What is the measure of average energy of motion? It is a temperature. So the 2 glasses have the same temperature. One has, but their volume is different. One has 250 milliliter. The other one is 400 milliliter. So if the water in the 2 glass has the same temperature but different volume, the glass of 250 milliliter has more thermal energy. Why? Because more volume means more particle. Moving on to the test prep. The particles in 2 pieces of chocolate have the same average energy of motion, which means the same temperature. One piece has more mass than the other. Which piece is at higher temperature? Okay, the piece with more mass, B. The piece with less mass, C. The piece with more thermal energy, D. They are the same temperature. They are the same temperature because mass doesn't affect the temperature. So we will try to start this lesson with a question. What is heat? A heat is a transfer of thermal energy from one substance to another. Heat is a transfer of thermal energy which make us feel cold or warm. Believe it or not, because of the heat, if I touch the coffee in that cup, the spoon in the coffee in that cup, you will feel its temperature and it will be hot. What makes the spoon, the metal spoon, becoming very hot? Well, this works because the particle of the hot coffee or the tea, because it's hot tea or coffee, it is the particle of the coffee move very fast. And these particles actually hit the metal spoon, causing the particles of the metal spoon start moving fast as well. In another word, we can say the particles of the hot liquid transfer thermal energy to the metal spoon. Let's ask another question. How thermal energy is transferred from hot to cold object? The energy is transferred in general. The energy is transferred in 3 ways. The first way is convection. The second way is conduction. And the third way is radiation. So we have three ways to transfer, for energy to transfer from hot to cold objects. First of all, convection. Second one, conduction. And third one, radiation. So don't forget these three ways. These three words you need to learn, and also you need to know their definition. Their definition is in the back of your book, and you can actually find it there. So this slide basically gives you an idea about each one of those words. Let's start with the first one, convection. The transfer of heat through liquid or gas that is caused by the movement of the particle or the motion of the particles, as you can see in front of you. The second one, though, is conduction. Conduction is a transfer of heat or electrical current, but we will talk about heat in this part. So is the transfer of heat from one substance to another by direct contact, as you can see in the picture. Well, what about radiation? Radiation is energy that is radiated or transmitted in the form of rays or waves or particles. Let's talk about conduction. What is conduction? That is the question, and we will try to answer that question and give example about conduction. Conduction is a transfer of thermal energy caused by particles bumping into each other or one another. And you can see conduction whenever you are using the faucet in your own home. Obviously, whenever you want to know if the water is hot, you will touch the metal faucet. اگر لما لوهش كاتب بزاني اوكا گرمه او كاتا اتواني دزبي لبوريكا و بزاني هز بگرميكي باشا چون بوريكا گرمه بوچي بوري او بوريكا اوي گرمي بيا اروا قدسي تيو بي گرمه. Do you know why? This works because the particles of the hot water are moving fast and bumping into the particles of the faucet or the pipe and causing them to start moving fast as well. In another word, the particles of the hot water transfer thermal energy to the faucet or the pipe, and this makes the faucet or the pipe hotter. So particle-kani ئاو گەرمەکە thermal energy ئێن بە بەلۆعەکەیان بە بۆریەکە وایلەکەن گەرم بێ یان ئەیەن بە هەر شتێک کە خۆی بۆ نمونەگە کەوچکێک بێنین بکەینە ناو چایەکی زۆر زۆر گەرمەوە دوای تۆزێک وەکو لە سلایدی پێشووترا باسم کرد کەوچکەکە گەرمە بێ. بۆچی گەرمە بێ و چۆن گەرم بوو؟ لەبەرەوەی لە شلەکە و یان لە لیکویدە گەرمەکە thermal energy گوازراوەتەوە بۆ کەوچکە ئاسنەکە وا لە کەوچکە ئاسنەکەکە گەرم بێ. You'll have to know that we have a few materials that actually conduct thermal energy very well. Metals are one of them. هەنێش مادەمان هەیە لە چواردەورمان thermal energy زۆر باشیە گوێزنەوە. بۆ یەکێ لەو مادانە چیە؟ کانزاکان. And these materials are called conductors. So metals are a good conductor. In the other hand, we have materials that do not conduct thermal energy so well. For example, a foam cup. It is a very poor conductor of thermal energy. Those materials that do not conduct thermal energy well are called insulator. A rubber handles that many pans and cooking stuff have are made of plastic because plastics are a very bad conductor. They are insulators. Let's talk about convection. What is convection? Basically, the transfer of thermal energy through liquids and gas by moving particles are called convection. So, an example for convection is a lighted bulb. Let's say you have a light that is already on, so the light will get hot. Then the air around that light will also get warmer, and then a large group of particles, hot particles of air, move and transfer the thermal energy. This type of energy transfer in gas and liquid is called convection. It is also important for you to know whenever the air near a hot object gets hot, it takes up more space or it will expand. You also remember what is density, right? A density is the amount of matter in certain volume. Why do you think I'm talking about density now? Because I want to talk about the density of air, hot air and cold air. And you'll have to know that hot air is less dense, and it is also forced by the cooler air, denser air around it. Okay, the picture in front of you talks about how hot radiator warms the room. So basically, you know that the hot air has less density, so it floats, while the cold air it is denser, so it sinks. So we said that the warm and cold air have different density. And you already know that hot air is less dense than cold air. In the case of the conditioner, you see the air conditioner gives out cold air, which falls. The cold air, since it's dense, it falls into the ground. Then the cold air forces the hot air around it upward and replace it. And also you should know that the thermal energy is transferred from the floor of the room to the ceiling of the room. The hot air now is moved toward the air conditioner where it is cooled. What about the cold air on the ground? Well, the cold air warms gradually at the floor of the room and starts to rise toward the ceiling. كاتي air condition إيشكا ئێوە already ئەزان کە هەوای سارد density زۆرترە بۆیە کەوێتە سەر ئەرزەکە و بوا لە هەوا گەرمەکە بەرز بێتەوە بۆ سەرەوە و جێگەی هەوا گەرمەکە ئاگرێتەوە. هەوا گەرمەکە بەرز بێتەوە بۆ سەرەوە لەلایەن air conditionەکەەوە ئەبرێتە ناوە و ئەکرێ بە هەوای سارد و هێنرێتەوە دەرەوە. Okay, so ئەو هەوا ساردەی کە لە ئێستا لە ئەرزەکە لە نزیکە لە گراوندەکەەوە لە فلۆرەکەەوە چی لێە وردە گەرمە بێ و دێنستی کەمە بێتەوە ئەچێتەوە بەرەو سەرەوە بۆ سەقفەکە و لێوە سەر لەنوێ ئەبرێتەوە بۆ air conditionەکە و سارد دەکرێتەوە. Now if you understand the whole process, you will begin to know that this is a process. The hot air is forced up, it warms the air around it. As the hot air is cools, its density increases and sinks. This process can repeat. The air moves in a circle. Warm air is pushed up and cold air is sinking. This whole process is repeating and repeating and repeating. And the pattern of this movement is called a convection current. Convection current. So whenever the hot air is flooding in the room and the cool air is sinking and the cool air pushing the hot air up, and then it is taken by the air conditioner, getting their density increase and their temperature decrease. This process is called convection current. What is radiation? Radiation is the bundle of energy that moves through matter and through empty space. just like the sun's ray is radiation. The thermal energy radiates through the space from the sun. The thermal energy radiates through the air from the fire. Those are examples of radiation. You know that the source of life on Earth is the sun's energy, right? And you also know that there is no matter between the Earth and sun. So neither convection or conduction can do anything to transfer heat or thermal energy. The sun produces a great amount of thermal energy, but there is no matter between the Earth and the sun to which it can be transferred. So the energy cannot reach the Earth, as we said, by conduction or convection. The sun can make bundles of energy that can move through matter and empty space. These bundles of energy that can move through matters and empty space is called radiation. So since there is no matter between the Earth and the sun, the energy from the sun is transferred to us by the process of radiation. Do you know there's things that can transfer energy by conduction, convection, and radiation at the same time? For example, the air above the lamp is warmed by convection. This hot air quickly warms your hand by conduction. You also can warm your hand by placing them around the sides of the lamp, but you have to know that it is infrared radiation that is making your hand hot. Your hand doesn't get warm or hot because of the hot air around the lamp. So what is infrared radiation that we talked about in the previous slide? We talked about radiation. We said radiation, you can sense radiation. You can see the visible light. So visible light is a radiation, and you can use your eyes and see it. You sense the other bundles of energy with your skin. These bundles of energy are carrying heat. So the bundle of energy that carry heat is called infrared. So you can actually sense the infrared radiation with your skin. It is heat. In a sunny day, your skin feels warm because of infrared radiation from the sun. So we reached the end of this lesson, and your homework is review in page 241. And also thank you for your attention, and have a great time and a great weekend.